Welcome to the Hedera HashCast, episode 10. Who thought we'd get here? I'm your host, Warlock and Key, and today DPAK and I will be talking with Jeremy Fletcher of Wallawallet. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing pretty good. Good Friday so far.
Now, we've been talking before this recording started, and over the last 30 minutes, I've shoved my entire computer into this closet. Because I'm like, hey, I want some good audio. And last time, the audio was not up to my standards, but maybe that was over ambitious because I barely hooked everything up by the time this started.
Oh, and now that you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, he is in a closet. That's an interesting space.
Yeah. I'm a little disheveled. I'm a little sweaty. For listeners, I'm sweaty.
So normally we talk about people coming out of the closet. He's gone back in the closet.
I've gone in.
No, I'm tired of being out of the closet.
I mean, if I could go back into the womb,
Right.
I probably would. It's hard out here. It's hard out here.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Now
your mom might have a problem with that though.
Well, hey, everybody's got to make sacrifices as long as it's not me.
Good.
Now, I've got a very serious and important first question for you, Jeremy. What are your thoughts on mosquitoes?
Well, I won't sing a little song that I learned about Skeeters when I was a kid. I don't know. Yeah, are you familiar with Peter and the Skeeters?
I am not, and I think that our audience would enjoy a rendition of this Skeeter song.
All right. Well, this is a first. All right. There's a Skeeter on my Peter, get it off. There's a Skeeter on my Peter, get it off. There's a dozen on my cousin, you can hear them bitches buzzing. There's a Skeeter on my Peter, get it off.
Beautiful.
That's what I think about mosquitoes.
That was amazing. That was great.
Thanks.
That's a good answer. Personally, I am for the genocide of mosquitoes. So, if you said, oh, they're important for the environment, that would have completely thrown this interview.
Right.
Because they're humanity's enemy. All these other animals have gone extinct because of our negligence, but we can't take out this one.
Yeah, they are pretty much a scourge. If you're and if you live in the South, you definitely might have more, you might be more on the side of the scorched earth policy. I know it's one of those things that, pesticides are bad and, we don't like spraying for insects because it gets in the groundwater and all that stuff. But here in Georgia, man, Mother Nature is just so strong. We just have to get her to calm down a little bit. No, those mosquitoes. Yeah. Well, and when I was a kid, there wasn't as big of a problem. And from what my understanding is that it's the Asian tiger mosquitoes that came over on. So I don't know if you notice certainly in South Georgia and in Florida, we have these, the tiger mosquitoes, these little Asian tiger mosquitoes. They're like little black and white striped mosquitoes, the little tiny guys, right? So those were not a thing when I was a kid. There were these bigger, more like, I don't know, they were just a bigger size mosquito, brown mosquitoes. And there was still plenty of them, but not like these Asian tiger mosquitoes that supposedly came in sometime in the 80s. They came over on a boat. They think that the eggs were in the rainwater of some tires that were coming over from Vietnam. And so then it was an invasive species that became, that started to kind of take over in the South. And they are just, they are everywhere and they are maddening. Those little tiny tiger mosquitoes, they're just everywhere. They're weak flyers though. So if you can get in an area, so if you're sitting outside, if you can get a fan or if you can get some air circulation, it's good for it. And they don't like smoke either. So
yeah, we need to just get rid of them.
Scorched earth.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad we can agree on that.
Right. I feel bad for the bats and the birds, that eat the mosquitoes.
They'll adjust.
They'll adjust. Those bats are having a hard time. I don't know, some nose fungus or something that came and wiped out all the bats. And now there's some huge problem with the bat populations. Some fungus that was blocking their sinuses or something like that. And that might be contributing to the explosion in mosquito populations too, because bats eat a whole bunch of mosquitoes. I can't remember what the amount of biomass they consume in mosquitoes is incredible. So with the bats struggling, mosquitoes taking over. I don't know.
We need more bats. We need
more
bats
would be good.
Less mosquitoes.
Maybe some wallabies too. I don't know.
Maybe some wallabies. Great segue. Great segue into actually talking about the thing that you do related to the thing that I do.
Other than singing about Skeeters on Peters.
Absolutely.
Those are important too, but.
So before we get into Wallawallet, right? So Wallawallet was made by Legerama, right? Your main company thingy.
That's correct.
For the experts out there, company thingy is the official term. Look, for listeners, he's pointing at a picture of him stomping on a mosquito. So tell me a little bit about the history of Legerama.
Okay, so I think any story about Legerama kind of starts with the story of cryptocurrency in general, right? I mean, this is, we're part of this. This is something new to our time, our generation. So I heard first about cryptocurrencies, of course, about Bitcoin back in 2012, in a discussion about illicit drugs and how to acquire them. People were talking about some crazy thing called Silk Road that none of us had heard about. And they were like, no, this thing is crazy. And I'm like, really? Silk Road? People are doing this? And yeah. And so I started looking at, articles about it going, what the heck is this? And turns out people were using something called Bitcoin, right? Now, this was just a thing of curiosity. I wasn't actually interested in ordering anything from Silk Road per se.
Sure.
But no, the Bitcoin thing, it was, looking at it going, oh, so it's PayPal for criminals. How cool. It was like, who in the world would get, I don't know. To me, I thought in my head, I'm like, okay, so what is it? You take a credit card, you go to some shady dark website and give them your credit card information and get some Bitcoin in exchange. And then you can go buy drugs or whatever illicit thing you want to get with this Bitcoin. So it sounded like PayPal for criminals was what I thought. 2012, right?
Sure.
Fast forward to 2017, I hadn't really thought about, hadn't thought about DLT really at all. Until a coworker came up to me and kind of grabbed me by the shirt and was like, we got to start mining Bitcoin now. This was April of 2017. And all right, whoa, take it easy. Let me get settled in. Let me figure out what the heck this stuff is. And so I dug in, started and went down the rabbit hole like so many of us, and was just blown away by what Bitcoin actually was, and that it wasn't just PayPal for criminals. It was, something way cooler than that. And as I started to dig in throughout 2017 and 2018 and learn more and more, I started to see some of the limitations, right? Started to see as a very simple example, my first interaction with Bitcoin was sweeping a paper wallet, and it took 24 hours for the transaction to go through. It was an $80 transaction. It cost me $10. And that was my first interaction with Bitcoin after learning and getting all excited, right? Now, granted, this was in peak network time. This was when crypto was hot and everything, but I went, man, this sucks. 24 hours. I'm sitting here waiting for confirmations, and it cost me $10 out of an $80 transaction. I was like, Bitcoin, cool, good job, but this isn't going to work for buying a cup of coffee, right? So there's got to be something better. And I just started digging in. There was plenty of projects coming out. Ethereum. I was really big into privacy coins at the time. Things like Zcoin, which is now Firo, Zcash, and Monero. I'm kind of a privacy nerd, so those were interesting to me. But I also have I have a lot of experience in enterprise technology, and I worked for AT&T. I worked for a big service provider for a long time as a technician with their company. So having worked in the enterprise space, I was kind of familiar with that, and looking at it, going, I don't ever see AT&T really, or any of these big companies really buying into the Bitcoin, Ethereum. I'm like, maybe, but I'm not seeing it. So when I saw an interview with Lehman Baird, and started, of course, that was the first, I went, whoa, okay, now this is interesting, right? They had the graphic of the fighter jet versus the snail, right? So Hedera is like a fighter jet and Bitcoin's like a snail. And, at any rate, and then, so I just kind of started, I went down that rabbit hole. And 2018, when the hackathon came up in Dallas, the global hackathon that was in whatever 7 cities or whatever it was in Hedera, that was Hedera 18, I had the fever. I had the bug. I was like, man, I have got to get out to Dallas and see what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to find out there. I don't know what it's going to be like. Maybe I'll just help some really smart people. I'll just go get coffee for some really smart people and try and look over their shoulder and see what they're doing. I really had no idea what to expect, but the Hilton Anatole is a beautiful hotel. They were getting together to do some crazy crypto conference thing. I said, I got to be there. So bought a plane ticket, flew out to Dallas. And when I got there, everybody was like, you should join the hackathon, be in the hackathon. I was like, really? They're like, no, just join the hackathon. We need all kinds. Just get in there. All right. So sat down and had a great time. I mean, it was a blast. Hedera 18 was a lot of fun. Great food, really good people, and had some success there at the hackathon. We wound up winning second place in Dallas under Mance and Lehman's nose. That was with the health records use case called Health Bar. And, and so, yeah, that was a great moment, right? Winning second place. I was like, wow, okay. So maybe there is something to this. And, after that, and talking to the Helix Accelerator and some of the other stuff that was going on after the hackathon, I came across a couple other people that were interested in building on the space for real, not just just basically carrying it beyond the hackathon, and so we started working together, and we started off working. They were kind of had something that they were working on, but they were not really sure what direction they were going. And after the hackathon, we decided to go with the health records case. So that was the birth of Legerama. Long story, but basically that's kind of the genesis of Legerama. Was in the wake of the Hedera 18 hackathon. All of the people that kind of competed in it were going, all right, well, what do we do now, right? What's next? And so we formed Legerama, and we've had a few pivots. So we started working on the health records case. Jim Nasser and the folks over at Acor were, Jim in particular, was putting some warning signs up there for technology companies going into the medical space. It's a great space in a lot of ways, but it has a lot of challenges. And if you don't have a background in the medical technology space, it's harder to break into. And so when you're dealing with new kind of niche technology and you're new to the industry, it was like, whoa, it just became too much. We ran into some problems with the database that we were building too. So at any rate, we pivoted away from that and started looking at a project that they had been working on before I came into the picture, which was this Treasure 6 social incentivized marketplace, which is another long lead vision, big project, big dreams, big goals. And we said, okay, this is also huge. And we need to focus on something that we can build, that's tangible, that people can use now, not 10 years from now when the platform's more developed. We need something that's needed in the community now, and that was a wallet. At the time, there was one wallet. There was the Hedera wallet that was their beta program that was really just kind of there for people to use the daily timestamp, and they were wanting to provide something for the SAFT investors and stuff, but it wasn't fully supported, and they didn't have the intentions of fully supporting it. And so I said, well, that's a perfect space for us. Cooper Coons, who was the developer evangelist at the time, he's like, wallet is right in your lane, right? You need a wallet to do all this other stuff that you want to do anyway. And we totally agreed with him. And so that's where we started on the wallet trip. And we, in looking at, of course, there's a lot of options. Do we do the browser extension? Do we do, what do we do? And with everything going mobile, so much of the trends all just point towards mobile as just dominating. We decided to go after the mobile wallet first. In some ways, that's been a little bit of, we kind of leapfrogged ourselves out of utility a little bit, because mobile isn't really supported by a lot of the rest of the ecosystem yet. So that kind of tied our hands a little bit. But I think in the long term, though, I think focusing on mobile is still going to be the right move.
Well, yeah, it's, as far as like HashPack's concerned, they don't have a mobile app, and it's just anytime they do anything, there's a billion people being like, when mobile, when mobile, when. I even unrelated videos, I'll get people commenting being like, when. I'm like, I'm not them. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough. Yeah, developing on mobile is really difficult. I mean, there's a lot of challenges there, and and we've kind of muscled through them, but it hasn't been easy by any stretch of the by any stretch. And the HashPack folks, they took a smart approach. I mean, going after a web app, and and kind of posing that as an alternative to a mobile app. And obviously they're great at community building and stuff. I mean, they've done some great moves. We had some security issues with web applications. We had some concerns, right? And we're particularly my business partner Rob is very fastidious about security, right? And he really convinced me that the thing about security is that people don't really care about security generally until it's a problem,
right?
And then it's too late, right? And with the experience, both of us being in enterprise previous to this, security is like paramount, right? Like you can't have security breaches, and so we kind of went after that. And like I said, it has been a handicap in some ways because we kind of been bound up in this, like the need for top-notch security. But again, it's one of those decisions that we made that I think will be good in the long run. But it has definitely posed some challenges up front because just like building on mobile, it's difficult.
Yeah, and I'm sure working with iOS isn't easy either.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So iOS in ways is so Apple products, they're more challenged. They're certainly more rigorous, right? So the approval process for the applications is far more rigorous. You've got to do, you've got to submit, basically paperwork to the national security agencies, the NSA, or in a National Security Administration or agency, I forget which it is, the NSA. Basically, you've got to file reports, because you're exporting technology and you're utilizing encryption. So, so basically Apple makes you go through a whole bunch of steps that you've got to get certified that you're not exporting encryption technology to, sanctioned countries and stuff like that. So it is more rigorous, but as far as the tooling and stuff, it's great because it's more streamlined. Their hardware and their software is far more streamlined in that sense. So we've had way more problems on Android just because of the vast number of devices is a big problem. It's been kind of one of our stumbling blocks because you've got Android devices, you've got Xiaomi, you've got just think of the range of companies that are building Android products is pretty vast. And then, of course, in the Samsung, and then there's different chip providers. And it's just, so Android is kind of this total hodgepodge of technologies and hardwares and softwares and all that stuff. So from our perspective, Android has actually been the challenge, but definitely getting the initial lift to get into the iOS Apple space is definitely bigger.
Yeah. I hadn't considered that because I just hear a lot of people complaining about getting on iOS, but
right.
Yeah, you got to support a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It definitely has its challenges up front, but then once you get there, the tooling it's a little bit more uniform. It's pretty developer friendly once you get in.
So, we say a lot in the Hedera community, HBAR community, we're so early, but you were actually extremely early, early. So I really want to know, because I don't claim to be a Hedera expert. I feel like I got pushed into this. I've been having a lot of fun. It's been great. But I'm having to learn a lot of things for the first time in doing the HashCast, and I am not early at all, especially compared to your timetable. So I'm super interested because I feel like if I did this HashCast like a year ago, I'd have like 3 guests.
Yeah.
Because the space, like I'd probably talk to you. I'd probably talk, yeah. So right. I'm super interested in your thoughts on how things are now compared to when you were working, when you were like starting all your stuff in this crazy like new frontier.
Yeah. So it's both. So like many things, it's kind of a double-edged sword or a little bit of a mixed bag, right? I mean, you want to see the baby grow up, right? But then when it starts to grow up, you're like, oh, it doesn't need me anymore, So that, it's kind of been like that. We started off, it was like, Wallawallet was the only show in town, and
Right.
people were, for a long time, we were the number one destination from Hedera.com. Right. So people came to Hedera.com from CoinMarketCap. And when they left Hedera.com, they were going to Wallawallet.com for a long time. I mean, to the tune of like 50% of the traffic or more leaving Hedera was going to Wallawallet.com. And because we were the wallet, right? And we had a way to create accounts for the Ledger device. And so we were getting all that traffic. But then, but that changes, right? People start coming online and turning on to the space. And so, so you lose some of that, you basically, that's that early adopter traction that you get, eventually that fades away. And that's true with basically any platform. But no, I mean, it's definitely different. You're right. I mean, for the first few years there, I mean, basically all, Andrew Antar, Jim Nasser. I haven't talked to Mac over at 3IEIO, but there was a handful of companies that when I did my Hedera meetups, it was either just me or it was the same, the same revolving door of guests. And now, it's blown up, but it's great. I mean, you see, just like I was talking about, watching your kids grow up. I mean, now there's, the communities are vibrant. I mean, like the Hashback community and the Club H Bar. I mean, they've just done fantastic work over there. It's fun. It's vibrant, right? It's jamming. And we want to bring some more of that over to Wallawallet too, but we're kind of the graybeards, so you crypto kids out there are really gonna like Wallawallet. Let me tell you.
You sure do care a lot about them NFTs, don't you?
Right. Yeah. So and we have so we definitely have we have a slightly different. We have our own approach. I mean, it's like personalities. We kind of have our own approach to things. We definitely are going after. I mean, just as a basic example, you look at our color scheme, right? I mean, whites, blues, kind of these golden tans, very like established, right? A little bit more like kind of something like you'd see on a Venmo or a PayPal, or if you were going to a Chase Bank or something, right? These kind of blue, comforting, enterprisey, kind of that's a little bit more of our approach, and like the other things, there's challenges with that. And, as the space gets bigger and gets younger, right? That has its own challenges, but.
So, going back to what's happening now, what are you working on now? Are there new features that are coming in? Can you don't leak anything, because I always get in trouble when someone leaks something. But if you can give me some information on what you guys are working on, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. So, so we started off, we were looking at, okay, so we got HBAR under our belts. Right. I went, okay, so what do we do next? And basically it was, okay, do we go after Hedera token? Do we go after the fungible tokens, or do we go after the NFTs? Well, it was less of a lift to go after the fungible tokens. And that is a little bit more in line with some of our eventual goals. So one of the things that, when I talk about these, kind of the long lead vision stuff, one of the things that we get really excited about is stuff like geolocation-based coupons, right?
Right.
Things that are really helpful for businesses, right? Smaller retail, more of the merchant space, right? So, right. Well, when we're looking at NFTs, I see, I don't see, eternal JPEGs, right? I see coupons and, loyalty points, and, see some of those more kind of functional, some of the more basic functionality stuff. Well, not basic functionality is not really the right word, but yeah, it's just kind of more utilitarian, right? Not quite as flashy, not quite as interesting out of the gate. I mean, coupons, right? Like coupons isn't really all that exciting.
Yeah, not super hype.
Right. Not super hypeable. But that's generally a little bit more of the direction that we're going in, is towards being able to provide services for merchants and stuff like that. But yeah, right now what we're working on, so we went, okay, well, so we supported the fungible tokens. We had made a pass at an airdrop feature, And we knew that there was some risk in what we were doing because it could be reverse engineered, but we were like, well, it's a pretty serious effort for somebody to reverse engineer this. So let's go ahead and do it and see if we can get through this airdrop campaign. We did a airdrop campaign back in December. And sure enough, within a day and a half or something like that, somebody reverse engineered the thing, and was basically, they were just running a script where they were uninstalling a simulated, basically they had Wallawallet and a simulator, and they were uninstalling it, reinstalling it, and doing the airdrop again and doing it again. So we saw this crazy spike where our airdrops went from kind of sporadic, and you could see where it was kind of organically happening, to this period where it was like every 30 seconds somebody was getting a new batch of jam tokens, like every 30 seconds. We went, hold on. That went on for a few hours. It didn't go on for very long, so we didn't really lose a lot of value out of the thing. But it was just something that we said, dang it, we wanted to get the airdrops out there and have that as a working feature, but it just wasn't, somebody, it was incredible to me how fast it happened. Like, Rob, our CTO, who is, a seasoned veteran, was like, it's pretty, he's very, he takes risk very seriously, right? So he was like, it's going to be a pretty serious effort for anybody to re-engineer this thing. So, so we were confident in it. And then day and a half, we were like, dang, that was fast. But at any rate, so we did the HTS thing. Airdrops is kind of on the back burner right now because we're working on some NFT solutions. Basically, what we want to do is be able to give people, I'm sure you've heard, with the utility tokens, people being able to use NFTs to get access for a service, right?
Right. Token gating.
Well, yeah, there you go. Token gating. Thank you. Right. So we want to do something similar like that with the airdrops, right? Where people that get these, the token gating NFTs, are able to get the airdrops, and they'll kind of get them through an extended network. Those are kind of some of the things that we're thinking about with the NFTs related to the airdrops. But yeah, so a lot of our time recently has been occupied with just supporting the NFTs. There's kind of a lack of standardization, which is which is getting better, but as a wallet provider, it's been a little bit of like, whoa, what is it that we need to support here? Because there was a total hodgepodge from basically after the hackathon, the token hackathon, which I believe was in 2020. There was all kinds of different, some people were creating NFTs that were actually fungible tokens, but with a supply of one, right? So these kind of like fakey NFTs.
Yeah.
And Goment had some of its own solutions. And then people just developers out there just winging it, right? Which is cool. But at the same time, they're creating these things that, some of them are like, they'll have these huge files, and it's like, oh gosh, how do we get this? How do we pull these huge files without, crushing our performance, or without having crazy, having crazy data storage fees? And, there's a lot of, there's a lot of problems to solve in the NFT space. And of course, on being on mobile, there's even more. There's kind of another layer that we have to work through. So NFTs is a big one, and then improving our interface. Honestly, probably the biggest criticism that we get, so there's basically two. There's people get frustrated with the biometric security, which really is the most secure way to store your cryptocurrency on a mobile wallet. But it does have some kind of setup challenges. And if you change your Face ID or something, it corrupts the data for security purposes and requires you to reinstall, stuff like that. So we get some flack. We get a little bit of flack on that, but primarily, we get like, UI is a little clumsy, not really the prettiest, sharpest looking thing in the world. And of course, we take all the feedback, totally seriously. It always boils down to time and money, right? So,
right.
But the UI and UX is definitely something that we're working on improving. Giving people a much more accessible experience into HBAR, something that they're a little bit closer to what they're accustomed to with other cryptocurrency wallets. And then down the line, it's really just kind of this open field. We've got, there's probably, maybe five different side projects, things that, that are kind of cooking in the background that, any one of those could take off, and then and essentially Wallawallet we plan to integrate with. We want to integrate with as many great dApps as we can. We haven't done the transaction signing like deep links yet, but that's coming down the line too. So that's one of them. We want to work on these, like I was mentioning before, these geolocation based coupons. We want to build out a proof of concept there. We think that could be really powerful. So there's a lot of stuff down the line, but again, it's we've got to churn through the stuff that's on our plate right now, and NFTs and improving our user interfaces is what we're working on the most right now.
So tell me a little bit about how it's been working with Tune FM and Jam.
Yeah, so we've been, we met Andrew and the Tune.fm team back in 2018 at the hackathon out there in Dallas. I met Andrew's dad. We had a conversation about them when they were little kids, and they're just Andrew and his brother. They're real artists. They are just incredible talents. Between the software and the music, those guys are really incredibly talented. And so we've been watching their project closely, and really them. I always consider Tune.fm and Acoer with their hash log and hash load, the medical records use cases. To me, them and Tune.fm have been the flagship use cases on Hedera. So we've been watching them closely, and of course we're investors as well. We love Jam tokens, and so it was kind of a no-brainer when we were finally able to support Hedera tokens. The first place that the first people that we looked to was the Tune.fm folks. And we wanted to see if there was, if they had appetite for collaborating and, and supporting one another. And of course, there was, the energy was there, and it's good. They did a major update to their website, so it looks like it's much more in line with what I had originally envisioned for them, because they had some demos in the beginning. One of the things that I always loved the most, of what they were doing was this idea that they had this global map that you could go anywhere in the world and select somebody, select a region and check out the artists that were uploading music from that region. To me, that's huge. I listen to a lot of music. I'm a musician myself, worked for a church as an assistant music director, did it, and as a kid, I was a choir kid and bando and all that stuff. So I've just been a musician forever. And and I listen, but if you're a music lover, a lot of people find themselves in kind of a rut where they're listening. You got the stuff that you love and you listen to it, but how do you branch out and how do you get new stuff coming in? Because you change the station, you're like, I don't really like that. I don't, it's hard to find stuff that really just that really speaks to us as people. But one of the things that I've done for a long time is I'll just YouTube search music of Honduras, right? Like, I don't know. It's just something it's something I've always done, just to like, what are they listening to over there, right? Or Romania, right? It just go anywhere, like something that I've never heard before. Let me see if I enjoy that. So that was something that I kind of did already. And so when they had this global map where I could zoom in on South Africa and check out artists that are coming out of South Africa, I just thought that was awesome. So, they've got a lot on their plate. It's been the Tune.fm team, their persistence in the space is just incredible. They worked through some limitations with the original smart contract implementation. There were issues with that. And then they kind of rewrote and re-engineered and came up with a way to shard the smart contracts. And they came up with this whole elaborate counter solution. And then Hedera came out with the Hedera token service, which completely changed the game on them again. And then, but then they went back and, and did the token service. They've got, just to be on the exchanges in and of itself is a pretty big feat,
Oh yeah.
And they were fortunate, from what I understand, they've gotten some good feedback from other jurisdictions that are calling them, that basically are coming out and saying, yeah, it's a utility token, which is kind of you don't want to be classified as a security, so in the US, that's a big, we're all trying to avoid the big securities hammer. So that's a big thing for them as well. We always wish things could move faster in the space, but you just keep plugging along. And and Andrew and the Tune.fm team are great folks, and I have no doubt that they will continue to be the persistent workhorses that they have been, certainly as long as I've known them.
So last week you started a little live stream. Are you going to be doing that a lot, or can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the DLT Sandwich, we're doing it every Monday at 12 noon Eastern. And we chose 12 noon Eastern for a few reasons. One, it kind of catches a big chunk of the world, right? You got Pacific Coast. Basically, most of the North American and South American continents can tune in. Big chunk of Europe and Africa can tune in. Unfortunately, we missed some of the Asia, Australia folks, but it covers a big chunk of the world. And it's just earlier in the day too. So, doing these kind of late in the day, like especially when it gets to be like the original meetups that I did were at 6 p.m. on Mondays. And that was just, at the end of a long day, to be looking at a 6 p.m. meetup was, I just wanted to push it earlier in the day. So yeah, so we're doing the DLT Sandwich, and just like a sandwich, we're kind of taking a layered approach, right? So we start off with a little bit of market news. And being the DLT Sandwich, it's, we're HBAR guys, but one second, that's my daughter's school calling me. One second.
Well, DPAK, while he does that, let's talk about anime. So, and manga. So I heard you've been recently getting into One Piece. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
And how have you been enjoying it?
It's been incredible. It's been a real treat to read it. I'm currently reading it. I'm also watching it now. I'm like pretty ahead on the manga. Sure. So just whenever I'm on the couch, I'll put on the anime. I know what happens. And yeah, just fantastic. I previously was a massive Dragon Ball Z fan, and anytime people ever mention shonen, I was like, Dragon Ball Z, come on, man. Like now actually, looks like Jeremy's back.
Hey, Jeremy.
All right. So nothing bad. It never is. My daughter, she's such a good kid. It was, today's the last day to buy these school t-shirts and,
oh no.
Right. Exactly. Like, okay, well, so
you got like 5 of them in the closet already.
Well, it's one of those that when I saw the school come up, usually it's because daddy's being a bad daddy and he forgot his daughter at school. No, I'm kidding. No, I did get one of those calls this year. It was like, it was at some point, right? They have a 15-minute window where the kids are sitting around, and after that 15-minute window, they're calling the parents like, hey, I had one of those this year, but not at any rate. Now everything's good on that front. Where were we? What were we talking about?
You were talking about the DLT Sandwich.
The DLT Sandwich.
Yes. And
you were on plug.
Marketing.
Yeah, thanks. Yep. Yeah, every Monday at noon Eastern. Yeah, so basically like a sandwich, we're taking a layered approach. We do a little bit of market news, then we do a little bit of HBAR news, then we do a little bit of kind of choose your own topic, choose your own adventure. And being the DLT Sandwich, of course, we're Hedera guys. So, we're talking a lot about HBAR news and what's going on in the Hedera ecosystem. But we definitely, we like to build bridges and extend our hand out to other networks. And, it's a big wide world that we're in. So, so the market news, we cover, we pretty much cover anything under the sun. And I'm joined for those, I'm joined by the HBAR Bull. So a lot of you in the community are familiar with the HBAR Bull. So he'll be joining me just as much as he can. And then we've also got some HBAR Foundry members. So I don't know if you're familiar with the HBAR Foundry, but that is a group. Okay. So the HBAR Foundry is a group that was formed in August of 2020. And basically it's a bunch of Hedera people in the Hedera ecosystem that get together every Friday. We get to Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern and just talk shop. Basically, the only requirements are that you be interested in building something on or around the Hashgraph ecosystem And it's a group of people comprised of technologists and business people and technology. It's a wide range of folks at the HBAR Foundry, and they've all got the Zoom invite for the Monday call. So if they want to pop in, they're welcome to pop in. So it's just kind of a little bit of a free floating live stream. We had a couple guests pop in last week. So So it's a medium that I'm familiar with, that I'm used to doing the meetups and stuff. It's, I kind of like the free floating nature of it. You just kind of pick a couple topics and just go, we're all bright people. We can figure out something to talk about for the time that we've got. Speaking of time, I've got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you had some buffer time too, so we're not going to cut it too close. DPAK, did you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in the DLT Sandwich targeting or being available during a lot of time zones. Just kind of curious about what do you think DLT adoption will look like on a worldwide basis? My impression right now is that America could be a little bit later in comparison to other countries or regions. Just want to get your take on that.
Sure. On the global scene. Yeah. So, I mean, DLT it's kind of like, it's like plumbing, right? It's like state of the art plumbing, I mean, that's not a very sexy way of talking about it. Right. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you get into the nuts and bolts of DLT, most people, their eyes just kind of glaze over and like, oh my God, it's just, what are you talking about? But yeah, but I think it's everywhere. It's going to be everywhere. Right. I mean, with the talk about CBDCs now, whether it's an open network like Bitcoin, or whether it's a fully closed and essentially private system that would be something like a central bank digital currency, either way that it goes, and I think it's going to be a mix of the two, right? It's going to, just like markets, I mean, you're going to have, you're going to have participants that are with different offerings, so that plumbing is definitely going to be integrated because it makes financial markets more efficient, right? And if you can make something more efficient, it's going to get traction and it's going to get used. Do I think that we'll all be using one digital currency or another? I think it'll probably thin out, right? We tend to go for, we like leaders, right? As humans. I mean, that's like it's human nature, right? There's a psychological study, about basically, about people and their error signals, right? So if you're in a room or if you're in a group of people that all feel one way about something and you feel a different way about it, you automatically have the feeling that you're probably wrong. Now that's not everybody. Some people are like megalomaniacs, right? Like, no, they just, I could think of a few people, that don't think they're ever wrong, right? But most of us, we kind of check ourselves when everybody else is feeling one way. If we feel a different way, we get these error signals, and so that leads to dominance in the markets, right? So you get a handful of players, and if everybody, Facebook, Google, Bitcoin, I mean, you got, just these, you could think of examples all day long. Kleenex, I mean, jacuzzi versus hot tub. I mean,
Band-Aid.
So basically. Band-Aid, yeah. I mean, the list goes on, right? We tend to go for these leaders in the space. Eventually, those markets kind of break up, and eventually those kind of category leaders go away or lose their death grip, like MySpace, kind of lost its death grip on the social media space. But yeah, so to answer your question, DPAK, I mean, definitely it's going to be here forever. We are early in the life cycle of this technology, right? So if you look at like 40, 50 year life cycle of a technology where, it basically kind of starts off slow and then builds and builds, you get that hockey stick growth, and then at some point it plateaus and then eventually kind of falls off. So, in that technology curve, we're probably about right there, like right where it kicks up, and really, so 2017, so in a 40, 50 year cycle, from 2017, 2014 maybe to now, that's still a pretty short period of time. So we've got a lot of growth, a lot of legs left in this technology cycle. So yeah, it's going to, so the technology is going to be everywhere, whether it's, CBDC, Bitcoin, Hedera. And I definitely think that there will be winners and losers, right? Because there's going to be, because of our tendency as humans to follow the leader, right? There's going to be some clear winners and losers that emerge, just like there was in the .com era. And I think Hedera is very well poised to be one of those that survives for the long term. Otherwise, we wouldn't be working in the space if we didn't feel that way. And I think most of the viewers probably agree. But yeah, we're here for the long haul.
All right. I think that is a fantastic stopping point. Nice little hopeful bookend.
Right.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being here. I really appreciate it. And I think
Thanks for
this will
having
be
me.
you're very welcome. I think this will be a really fun episode for people. Hopefully we didn't get too off the rails, but
yeah, right. I don't know, that first 5 minutes or so, who knows?
Hey,
but,
I love it.
Well, and that's what, and so I did play. Oh, and I did, just as a side note, I did give you a little plug in my DLT sandwich.
I saw
okay,
it.
Cool. Good. Because when I watched your, I was looking at the interview with Mr. Wes Geisenberger. It's not potentially the most entertaining topic, right?
Sure.
Environmental social governance, right? Okay. But I mean, within the first 30, 60 seconds, you had me laughing. So,
yeah,
so
I tried to perk things up.
My rendition. Yeah. Hopefully my singing got at least a couple chuckles out there. If there was a couple chuckles, then.
Oh, you bought us some subscribers, certainly.
That was the highlight of the whole podcast of all of our episodes.
All of them. That's gonna be we'll get the uptick in views, and after this it'll just crater.
I'm gonna be the Skeeter Peter guy for the rest of my technology career. Just if I ever run for political office, they'll be bringing this one up. Remember that time you sang that song? No. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, I loved it. Now, for the people out there, if you enjoyed this podcast, please, as I said, I got to plug myself, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter at Hedera HashCast, and consider supporting us via Patreon or buying one of our patron NFTs. If you don't like supporting the big Patreon system, thank you, as always, for listening and for helping to build a consensus in the Hedera community. Thank you to our patrons: ABFT, FTW, Moon88, and DJ.